Hello there, once again, YouTube Wardy here, and I've got my second ever YouTube exclusive cast for you guys today. Zest versus Rogue, another series from what was an awesome set of Intel Extreme Masters Katowice qualifiers. Let's kick this off to the bottom left hand side of Automaton in game 1 of this best of 3 with our red Zerg player from Jin Green Rings. This is Rogue. Up against the pink Protoss to the top right hand side, we have got Zest. An epic PvZ coming up, hopefully, in this best of 3, which I believe took place in the lower bracket of the IEM Katowice qualifiers, and it was one of the Korean server qualifiers. I can't remember which, although the information is on the Wikipedia page if you really want to go and check that out, but it shouldn't really matter too much for the purpose of casting this series. So, yeah. I just want to start this off by first of all saying, though, thank you, YouTube, in general, because you guys have been so awesome lately. You are, like, currently my favorite set of people, but don't tell my Twitch stream I said that. Because the YouTube channel has been doing so well still. I mean, that's why I started to do a couple of these YouTube exclusive casts, and, well, the first one went well enough to decide to do another. It's actually crazy. I think Mario Innovation, which was our first one, is currently sat at above 10k views in 2 days, and is on track to be one of our top 5 biggest YouTube videos of all time. So, I mean, thank you so much for that, and of course, if you enjoyed this cast here today, don't forget to consider liking, subscribing, commenting down below, let me know what you thought of the games, let me know which games you're excited to see next, perhaps, and let me know what you're thinking of these YouTube exclusive casts, which, by the way, I've decided I'm going to try and put out every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at either 9 PM or 10 PM CET. I didn't quite decide on the time yet, but hopefully going to be doing 3 of these a week, and we'll keep it up. And yeah, so thank you so much for you guys supporting and making this possible. So again, leave those likes, etc. But let's get into the action. Talk a little bit about PvZ. Just want to say sorry, the music's not on here. This is one of the replays off of the old patch, just because these qualifiers took place a week or 2 ago, and so we've had a patch since then. So we have to load a weird version of StarCraft, and that's why you're not hearing any music right now in the background, which we would usually like to have up. It'll probably start up in a moment or 2. It's just a setting that's a little bit bugged out. Hopefully I'll get that fixed for game number 2, but I don't want to jump right into this again, because it is just background music. It will show up at some point. It's not the end of the world, though. That boom! On cue or what? How about that? You hear that? It just, it heard me. You heard the YouTube comments going, Wardy, I think you should have fixed the music. There you go. Alright, let's be serious, though. Let's talk about this game. The Stargate drops down already from Zest. Now, I could tell you all about Stargate PvZ openers, but you've probably heard it all before if you've watched a Stargate, or a PvZ, sorry, in the last 2-3 years. It has been the go-to for a long time. The Stargate gives you so many options which transition well into a macro-focused game. You can even throw a couple all-ins behind it, and it's just a safe, steady way to start the game while then being able to transition, and you can do it every game to stay safe, while then transitioning into something just a little bit different the next time around to keep the Zerg player on edge. So, Stargate, it's safe because you get the Oracle out. That can help you to defend against the third base right away. It's very good against Link Floods and so on. As we see, the Phoenix First here will come over and shut down this Overlord as well, so it also has that added bonus. And of course, from this point, you can go into a Twilight Council and a Robo Facility and go into a Templar Archives maybe, go into some sort of an Archon drop, which is something that Zest loves to do, so I'd be very surprised if you didn't see that here. Or you can throw down a second Stargate and play something more along the lines of a double Stargate Phoenix build, which has also been very popular in recent times in PvZ. It was very popular about a year ago, and it definitely died off in popularity a bit, but it has risen and bounced back drastically over the last little while, as we see the Zerglings approaching the front, but deciding, well, there's not much we can do here, just checking to see what's up. And there is that second Stargate I was just talking about. In fact, when you see this second gateway going down here, it's very regularly a second Stargate pretty quickly. Just based on the timings of when the tech comes in and when you can afford things and so on, as the Phoenix and the Oracle pushed away without any success in the main base just yet. And obviously you do not want to lose this Phoenix because every Phoenix is going to count. When you can trade efficiently with these Phoenix, it's the idea of slowing the Zerg player's economy down. They're consistently having to rebuild drones, queens, overlords, and all of that is stopping them from teching up into their mid-game swarmy army, so that by the time they do get to maybe a massive Lingvein Hydra or so, you have done enough damage to slow them down, and you've built up a good army of your own, Immortals and Archon base generally. So we'll see where it goes. Now, obviously, because it is Phoenix heavy, you would generally see a bit of a different style from the Zergs. Oftentimes, we'll see actually a Hydra heavy style, and then it adds in maybe Roaches later. But +1 missiles is something you'll often see instead of the +1 melee, because it's really about the Hydralisks being able to deal with these Phoenix. Now right now, Rogue does not know what he's up against. He knows it's a Stargate opening, but he doesn't know the follow-up, and that's why Zest is keeping these Phoenix hidden away here. Rogue gets the Rotron and the Lair at a time, which allows him to be ready to deal with an Archon drop. So by getting the Rotron and the Lair up right now, he'll be able to get a few Roaches out, and then if it was an Archon drop, the Roaches are here to deal with it. But what that means is he's going to build Roaches before he knows what's going on, and there's 10 of them right away. So he builds 10 Roaches before he knows what's going on. Now against the Phoenix, obviously they don't serve much of a purpose to defend, but they can indirectly defend, because if those Roaches begin to push across the map, what they're going to be able to do is they're going to force the Phoenix to respond to that, because you can't just let 10 Roaches show up at your base when, you know, you've been building only air units for the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes of the PvZ. So you have to respond to that maybe. Sometimes you make a Void Ray, a lot of the time you just use the Phoenix, but instead of the Phoenix attacking those Roaches, attacking the drone lines, they're attacking Roaches, so it actually protects your economy, and so they're almost like sacrificial Roaches, and you'll see here Rogue, at this point he knows it's too late for it to be an Archon drop, and he's seen the Phoenix with a couple of the units that he's got very well spread out across the map. So he does send those Roaches straight across. Now they seem to have slipped by the Phoenix of Zest, so Zest doesn't know they're here, which means they have some real potential to do damage. But that does mean the Phoenix are still here, also dealing damage too. So a few drones so far, an Overlord, a Queen. But it's pretty much time for them to get back to that top side, because otherwise those Roaches are going to get so much done. And he's going huge here with the Phoenix. Yes, he's getting a lot of Overlords. He's going to supply block Rogue too, and don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But how much is Rogue going to do? You can see instantly as he sees those those Roaches at home, the Phoenix recall home. And by recalling home, boom, they can come in, and those Roaches are already backing away, realizing the Phoenix are here now. This was nice though, the Roaches just doing a little bit of damage, as the Phoenix will come in, pick off that Overseer, and actually the Roaches are getting out of there alive, so I love this from Rogue. Again, yes, he took some damage back at home, a lot of Overlords especially, but I wouldn't say this was terrible for him, because you're expecting to be about 1,000, 2,000 resource slots behind, and losing Overlords isn't as bad as losing the drones, because at least your economy then throughout this is stable. And this has obviously bought him some time to get up into his tech choice to deal with those Phoenix, and it's not been the choice of going in towards Hydras, it is instead the Spire and the Corruptor play. Zest sees it with this Oracle, with that Scout. What he's able to do here is the Phoenix finally will find these Roaches, but it's kept them so busy. With the Scout of the Spire, Zest starts to build Void Rays. Void Rays, as long as they have the Phoenix to buffer for them a little bit, will do a lot of damage to those Corruptors. Once they get Prismatic Alignment up, they do so much, because the Corruptors are armored, so they take that bonus damage there. So that's definitely something to watch out for here. As those 12 Corruptors on the way up. The Void's definitely looking pretty good to deal with that. Obviously, the Phoenix count is pretty high as well. This is 11 Phoenix, which is how many he made in the first place. And 11 Phoenix is definitely the right sort of place to be in it's definitely the right sort of place to be in to kind of help out against those Corruptors. Yeah, you don't want to straight up fight, but with a couple of Voids in there, you should be okay-ish. But then the Corruptors are very good throughout the game, and they can definitely keep the units of the Protoss player pinned back, although right now they're attacking across the map, not at home to defend. So you just lose a couple more drones, although Zest has been very cautious with them, backing away very quickly, pulling back up to the top side. Two more Lings and Roaches showing up and trying to break through the frontiers. The first Zealot does go down, so again, just getting a Zealot or two here or there. 5 Zealots killed this game. When I said it was nice for Rogue earlier, I actually thought he'd killed a little bit more, I'm not gonna lie. I thought he'd at least got a pylon or so over here. Apparently that was not the case, so my apologies. I still like the idea though, and the fact that Roaches got away was still a big positive for him. As you see Phoenix and Void Rays now coming through. There's still not a lot on the ground though, as there's the first Void Ray going down, and that's how dangerous it can be for those Voids. The Corruptors, when they do target them, can target them down in a couple of volleys, so you have to be very, very careful. Temple Archives, getting that Storm upgrade going. Obviously Storm becomes a very important upgrade against these units of the Zerg as it goes by. Storms on Corruptors can just soften them up a lot to then pick off more easily. Similar story with the Roaches. And obviously if we eventually saw Hydras or more Lings, I mean Storm is just an all-round great setup, but it takes a while to be good, because you don't want to build it on 2 bases when you can only afford 2 High Templar. 2 Storms aren't going to do enough, but when you get up to a lot of High Templar and you can afford a lot of Storms, that's when you're going to be in a great position. Here's the Corruptors, thinking about Caustic Strain, but just waiting to get the Phoenix over here, it seems, and taking a bit of a fight, backing away. Rogue with some great control of these air units so far. Still has Roaches pinned up to the top side, ready to maybe slam into that third base if the opportunity arises. Although now Zest with double Robo production is starting to increase that immortal count, and that's going to be very good against this roach-heavy army. Now there are Zerglings to go in front of the roaches for Rogue, which would be very important here. Make sure that he can sort of tank a little bit for the roaches and stop them from just getting slaughtered by immortals right from the get-go. Void Rays coming through, and they actually get some good damage onto the Corruptors here, although overall still, a Void Ray and 6 Phoenix have gone down. He's only lost 3 Corruptors, so it's definitely starting to go well for Rogue in that regard. As we see a few more Corruptors on the way through, and now he does throw that down that Hydra's den, so he's starting to get to that point where Storm is really important, because as you stack up Hydras, Storm is just the only way to really deal with those, because otherwise their damage output is so high, they kill everything before you get a chance to actually kill them. Void Rays really come into this fight, the Corruptors too. I mean, the other player apparently wanting to back away from this here, so you see those Corruptors pushed away. I mean, a couple of Voids went down, this one left alone on the edge of the base, and that's Rogue just being so persistent with these Corruptors, threatening the 4-6 spray here again, and the Protoss player will come in. Shield Battery's helping out, but it's another Void Ray down, and make that 2, as the Corruptors then leave out over the left side of the main base. It's still just a massive Roachling at the front, looking to just jump on this Zealot Immortal army, but I really feel Zealot Immortals will kind of really deal with this. Here come the High Templar, they have Storm available, and once they Storm, they can become Archons with the splash damage of those. They're going to be very useful in this fight as well. Good fight from Zest, actually not overcommitting in. A couple of Warning Force Fields to buy time. But man, these Void Rays just keep on dropping. You can see it's been a much more efficient game from Rogue in the last little while, considering his 2,000 resources lost behind. It's now more or less even, so Rogue is really finding value with these Corruptors. Biggest issue with the Corruptors right now is that they're not going to be able to take part in a straight-up fight. And yes, you might be able to Core 6 spray down a base. That's great. But does it save you from this one big attack of Zest that's currently coming across the map? Sure, Zest might not be able to follow up very easily. He doesn't even get the base. So actually, Zest keeps his free base economy heading to 4 base up and running. Oh, this is actually really good for Zest then. The counter-attack across the map should be pretty good because, again, so much supplies in Corruptors. There's 36 army supply in Corruptors. And if you do the math there, it's 80 versus 100 essentially on the ground. As Rogue desperately morphs in some Ravagers, he needs something other than just Roaches. Ravagers do a bit better because they don't have that armor tag, they have a bit more DPS, and they are also going to be able to Corrosive Bile onto this army as that hatchery bottom right goes down. And as Zest push, you can see it's deadly here. The Corruptors are still across the map. They've got nowhere else to be. 13 drones already dead. The first couple of storms are just warning storms here, really. But those High Templar have about 2 storms each on them, so they can afford a couple of warning storms to buy some time. Again, there goes those Corruptors. Core 6 spraying down the Nexus. Okay, sure, that will die. But how much will die on Rogue's side of the map? As Zest pulls back a little bit. A couple of Roaches coming in from the back as well. Okay, well, the Roaches and Ravagers get on top of the Immortals. The Zealots to the right side weren't here to protect those Immortals at all. Finally, the Warp Prism shows up for a bit of extra micro as well. That's maybe where a lot of Zest's army is. Back home dealing with the Corruptors. Blink in play in 20 seconds or so. Looks like the Corruptors will be safe until then. Warping in more Stalkers. I mean, with the Archons here now, obviously he doesn't have Storm, but the Archons still add so much to this, pushing those Roaches and Ravagers away. Another Roach going down, and more drones will continue to drop, and that's the issue. While Zest lost the 3rd base, Rogue is losing the straight-up ability to mine, because he's not going to have any drones left very soon. I mean, those Corruptors snipe down the Warp Prism, which is great. No more reinforcements, but there's just so much on the ground. And I just don't see how Rogue is going to clean this up. Zest even blinks on top of the Roaches and Ravagers here. Again, those Corruptors are just dead weight in this army while trying to fight back. And that is Zest cleaning up absolutely everything, blinking in for an extra couple of Ravager kills. And Zest will pick up game number 1 in this best-of-3 series against Rogue in the IEM Katowice qualifier. Again, a great play by Zest, I would say. Just sort of kept his cool against the Corruptors. I wasn't sure about how many Void Rays he made, but in a way, by making more Void Rays, he almost baited Rogue into making more Corruptors, and then Zest was like, haha, I've still built a ground army. And that was where Rogue was caught off guard. He only had Roaches and Lingers, then he desperately made some Ravagers, but it was just too late already. There was a couple moments where it looked a bit scary, but it was only because the Zealots were out of position chasing drones over to the right side, and that's what happened right there. So that's GG's. We're going to be jumping into game 2 of this series in a couple of moments. See you guys there. Alright guys, sorry for a little bit of a sound beep actually. There was a little bit of Skype beep at the end of that last game when I was just talking. Maybe it was just telling me to shut up. My bad, my Skype. You guys know how Skype works. Sometimes it just doesn't like to stay muted even though you tell it to. Apologies for that. As we jump into game 2 of this, though, this is Kairos Junction, and the top left-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player is Rogue. Down a map after his Corruptors just didn't quite cut it. there in game number 1. And the bottom right, again, that ground army, too powerful in the end. Our pink Protoss player is Zest. I do feel Zest on the ground did a very good job. I do feel the air army was a bit... It just felt like he lost a lot in the skies, and while I was talking a little bit about maybe he almost baited more Corruptors out, it's not like he really got much out of it, right? Like, he was still costing him money to do that too. It was just what he was losing was still... Maybe, again, like, I think because he was starting to lose units, it was like the Corruptors still were being made, and there was just no need for that. And Rogue maybe didn't realize just how much he was killing. So by the time that, you know, Zest had wasted so much of Rogue's time forcing Corruptors and trading out air armies, suddenly Rogue has, again, a bunch of Corruptors that just can't be used. And Zest is just like, cool, buddy. I mean, thanks so much, because you have, like, you know, 30 Roaches on the ground, and I've got 6 Immortals. You know, Storms available, they can morph into Archons after. It was pretty brutal. The only thing the Corruptors really did in that fight was, well, snipe down the Warp Prism, which might have been nice if it had come in right away and sniped the Prism, but obviously they were across the map trying to do some sort of justification for being on the map by picking off that Warp Prism, by picking off that Nexus that was up in the sky. Sorry, I'm misspeaking a couple of words and names here and there, guys. Last couple of days, if you've been watching my stream and so on, you'll know I've been a little bit ill. I've had a bit of a bad throat, bit of a cold building up. I actually took yesterday off for the first time this month. I took a day without streaming to try and fix it. Still wanted to get this YouTube cast out for you guys, though, so if you hear a couple of coughs, etc., that's my bad, and I'm probably going to mess up a couple of words here and there as well, just because my throat's just nagging away at me a little bit and is getting in my mind. So apologies on that one. But still wanted to get this cast, and I figured this would be a pretty cool series as well. We did a TVT last time, so I figured let's do no Terran, let's do Zerg and Protoss, and cast up a bit of ZVP. Although again, if you guys have a series you'd like to see or some players you'd like to see, I saw someone asking for some Gumiho games, some stats games were asked for. If you guys got any games in particular you'd like to see or any players, let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like maybe as well. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel too. We continue, or aim to continue to put out a whole bunch more content over this year. Because again, like the growth on the YouTube lately has been ridiculous, and I want to use this momentum and make something great of it, so... Thank you so much for all that support. Well, we see the Adept arriving here, but overall the game, compared to game number 1, is actually heading in a very similar way. Stargate opening from Zest. We do see 8 Zerglings on the way from Rogue just to help deflect these first couple of Adepts, stop them from dealing any real damage. And Zest also goes for the Phoenix first opening here, so the exact same as what we saw in game number 1. So no switch up there either. No sort of, hey, you know what, let's go Oracle first, or maybe skip the Phoenix and build a Stalker. No, Phoenix first comes in, starts to hit this overboard as Rogue already sends it through into the main, and there's that first single Oracle on the way up. And again, eyes open to see what the follow-up to this might be as well. Because obviously last game we saw Zest just throwing down that second Stargate, but as he looks towards the next, you know, little bit of tech here, we really will determine how this game's going to go. Second gateway at the front completes this wall-off, and if that wall-off completed, again, tech choice number 2 of the game will be made now. And again, it was looking exactly the same as game number 1. And so, we see the second Stargate once more. So we've already talked a little bit about what these Phoenix are meant to do and the way that Rogue responds to it, etc. So it'll be interesting to see if Rogue does anything different as he moves in towards the lair tech this time. Maybe he won't choose to go for a Spire and instead will choose to go in towards like a Hydralisk Den. Something along those lines, maybe. There's the Phoenix, the Oracle coming up to the top. These Zerglings running forwards. They're actually going to catch an Adept. And that Adept might go down. It will go down, actually. The Lings have enough of a surround on it. So nice little pick up there from Rogue. And every Adept you kill now, especially when this is Phoenix, it makes holding the third base that little bit more difficult because you'll have less on the ground as Zest. And Lings are going to be pretty good on the ground when there's only 1 Oracle in the game rather than 2 or so. Obviously, there's, you know, no extra gateways added on just yet because it's Phoenix production. The second Stargate coming down, you don't need extra gates for this, right? Like, an Archon drop, you'd go up to 4 gates, so if you needed to warp in a couple extra Zealots, you would be able to warp in a few. Not in this scenario, so might just slow that third down a little bit. I mean, Zest will still try and take it. We'll see if, I mean, obviously this is insinuating that maybe Rogue will have enough Lings to do anything there anyways. He very well may not, as we'll see the Roach Roaring finishes about the same time as in Game 1 as well. And we'll probably see those first few Roaches on the way momentarily, because, again, it doesn't look like Rogue has any real intention or any real need to change what he was doing in that first game. For the first 5 minutes or so, obviously. I mean, once it gets to lair tech, I think that's when you have to start making some different decisions here. Now, what Rogue might be doing, he hasn't built any Roaches, sorry. What he might be doing is be like, okay, well, this looks kind of similar to last time around. And as he does come in with these few Zerglings, he might just be bypassing the roaches until he either sees an Archon, and then just be like, okay, well, I'll deal with this with Queens for a few moments, then build some roaches to defend. He might just be doing that so that he doesn't build the initial set of roaches when he doesn't need them, or, you know, last time he built 10 right away. This game he starts up 6, but hasn't added any more, as we see the Phoenix now starting to come across the map. I mean, they're arriving, and again, last game there was already 10 roaches out by now. This game, very different from Rogue. Just 6 roaches. He's going to get 11 extra drones added in as well as he loses his first Overlord. Going to lose Overlord 2 here. Those Queens are way out of position. I'm very surprised Zest didn't lift that up. As, oh no, though, the Lingers actually broke through onto the natural expansion. So breaking through the front, and that's, again, one of the differences of maybe having one less unit here or there. Well, in the end, it's actually not going to be that big a deal. These Zerglings don't end up dealing that much damage, I would say. I mean, he hasn't actually lost... Okay, I think one probe just went down. That's actually really sick considering the situation. As you can see, that those Phoenix are actually going to recall back home because of the couple of roaches here. Sees the recall, sacrifices a couple, tries to pull the rest away to be annoying later. And there's Rogue with a very different setup. And I want to point out now, he went up to 68 drones so fast that this Hydra force, and he's going to build purely Hydras with like 1k in the bank. He's going to have a lot of Hydras very quickly, and that could be extremely dangerous to a Protoss player who is still on 2 Stargates, just now getting the double Robo up, but is obviously prioritizing a couple of Observers first and so on. By the time these Hydras can get in position to attack, there might be 2 Immortals, 4 at most, but Immortals will not have that much to back them up because we're still also only on 2 gateways. And so those Hydras could really get a lot done here. There's not going to be any Archons to splash damage. I think just the speed of these Hydras might catch Zest a little off guard as probes have to pull again. That's more lost mining time. Couple workers going down as the roaches running in as well. Anything you can do to slow down the production of Zest right now is going to power up this Roach Hydra attack that's getting set to come the map in the next few moments, and this is now 9 workers killed as the Phoenix, okay, sure, they're across the map. They're gonna look to try and find a couple Hydras here, but oh, the Phoenix fly too far forwards, loses one, the other goes super low. That was the first Phoenix lost. You can see about a 1,000 resources lost difference here, but again, because Zest lost a good chunk of his economy, that is quite costly. And right now, Rogue moves across the map. Now, he's invested in +1 missiles. He'll get upgrades behind this. But obviously, he wants to apply some pressure and just check, well, do you have enough to defend, considering how much you invested into Phoenix earlier on here? I'll give you an answer right now. I don't think there is enough to defend. Rogue is looking as though he's going to take down the rocks to give him a bit more space to attack through so he doesn't get, well, dictated by just a couple of force fields as to how he can or cannot attack. This will cost a lot more force fields and will kind of force a fight a lot faster because you can't realistically force field this amount of area forever. So force fields, instead of keeping units out, will look to just keep units kind of split in half a little bit. And that's nice, keeps the units on the left away. Obviously, Rogue just backs off a little bit. Oh, I like this though. The Phoenix outnumber the Hydras on the top side, so able to lift up a few and get some good damage there. Roach and the Ravagers pressing forwards, though, and there's still a few Hydras available. So Hydras pressing forwards. The Immortals are just not doing anything at all here, guys. Like, they're killing a couple of Roaches, sure, but they are just unprotected. Nothing to buffer for them. And the Phoenix have not killed enough in the back, and that's GG. Rogue picks up a game 2, and we get taken to a 3rd game in this series. As, well, Rogue just made so many little switches here that ended up in such a big difference in terms of how it played out, right? The little bit of greed, leaving roaches and just investing a little bit more into some extra drones. Bit of a gamble, but completely paid off for the style Zest was playing. And it gave him such a good economy. He lost a few drones, but he was already just like, yep, I'm building purely Hydras. Boom, so many Hydras and roaches there. And you could see there was just nowhere near enough for Zest to be able to hold that off. As Rogue will give us a 3rd and final game of this series. Let's jump into it. Our final game will take place on Port Alexander. A map which, well, it's an interesting little map. As you have Rogue bottom right hand side from Generic Green Rings, our red Zerg player. Oops, that was the wrong button. That was a bit of a flicker. My bad, but I guess it takes us to the top left where we have our pink Protoss, Zest. Now, let's talk about this map a little bit. The natural, pretty regular, free build and wall off, etc. Nothing really too crazy compared to what we just saw in Kairos. You also have, similar to Kairos Junction, this high ground into the natural, so you have to go up a ramp to get to the natural, but then attacking, if you get here, attacking into the natural is low ground. So it's a weird sort of mix of not actually as safe as you would think. But taking your 3rd base, it is very nice and close to the kind of natural here. Compared to Kairos, it's a bit more exposed and further away. It's protected on Kairos by a set of rocks, which really narrows up the entry point. But here you can leave the natural and get down to this third very easily. And you can you basically stand here and you're covering your natural entrance more or less and the third base. And if someone comes up this ramp, you can move over here very quickly and very easily. So defending the 3 base comes pretty easily on this map, and the 4, 5, 6 bases actually come up quite often as well. This is one of the maps that definitely goes split map a little bit more regularly. This forward base becomes kind of a point of contention a lot of the time, where armies will sort of sit here and base their kind of operations from this point. It kind of depends how you're playing. Zergs will generally move up to a 4 base in a linear pattern up here. Pros will oftentimes take a 4th base here, maybe down here depending on how the game's going and sort of where they're attacking. But a 5th base can come up in this forward spot quite easily. And if you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it can be very nice because you kind of sit here, and then there's only really this pathway up here to hit the 3rd base, and there's only really this pathway over here. But then you're kind of sat here, right? So you can respond very quickly to attacks in both locations. Again, as the Zerg, you're looking to be a bit more mobile anyways, and again, you generally spread up towards this area here, towards the 5th base, maybe a base down here, because that forward base is much harder for you to hold, because you're not usually the one with such a kind of pressing force in the middle, or at least when you are, you usually back away to then build a concave, fight on creep, etc., rather than taking a fight, which means that oftentimes if Terran or Protoss players arrive up here, for example, on the high ground, and they're like, okay, cool, there's that, forward base, well, they can like poke in, pull back, poke in, pull back. You're just going to take so much damage to it. And Zerg doesn't really have that same sort of pressure they can apply, unless they get up to Broodlords, when you can certainly this high ground fire down onto that base. That's when maybe Zerg gets very good against that base. Maybe that's why sometimes we see players try and take that earlier before Broodlords become an issue, and there's a lot of different things in this map. It's actually one of my favorite maps right now. I love it. It's truly something I just like the idea there's so many viable different ways to expand. I think that's one of the best parts of it. I always think maps like that just give you so many different and interesting games, and that's obviously very important, as there's Adept hanging around on the bottom, another Adept shading over. Oracle is chrono boosting out here from Zest. So chrono boosting this out, as we do see the Zerglings that are out as well. There's a fair few Zerglings early game. He's actually gone up to 12, which is a bit more than we've seen before. I believe last game or so we had 8 or 10. It's not a huge difference, but it still feels like a lot just for the first 2 Adepts. Probably wants to get onto the map nice and quickly. Now, once again, it's the Stargate, but this time it's actually proxied in the bottom left corner. Sorry for not showing that sooner. So he's not going to build the Phoenix. He'll go straight into 1 Oracle and, of course, a 2nd Oracle as well. That means that back at home, he doesn't actually have a way to clean up this Overlord. As the 2nd gate goes down, makes it look again exactly like the other games. As the Oracle arrives very quickly, the Queens are very well positioned by Rogue to push that away, and Zest will have no luck at all being able to attack into that main base. I mean, Oracle 2, you're hoping to get something done, otherwise, I mean, the issue with this proxy Stargate is obviously it arrives a bit faster, you try and hit before spawns already, and he did, but the Queens were well positioned, so Rogue had a very good read on this, and just was very cautious about the possibility of a proxied Stargate. I mean, now your issue is you lose a Stargate, right? So if you want to go into a Phoenix later game, you're going to have to rebuild the Stargate, which means that Mutalisks become a bit more of a viable option, because it's more difficult for the Protoss to react to them properly. Even if you want to tech up later, go into the Fleet Beacon and Tempest and so on, you then have to build that Stargate before you can even start the Fleet Beacon and so on as well. So it can have a couple of effects. There's definitely a cost to getting those Oracles across the map a little sooner. And that's why it's a bit of a shame that Zest didn't do much with them initially, although now has found 4 drones. That's obviously rather nice. The Lings turned away from the natural expansion, as that Twilight Council finishing up in this natural. 2 more gateways coming down as well. And we just have these Overlords. Actually, Rogue sent double Overlord across the map this game, hides this one right in the top left corner. And actually, because there was no Phoenix, we'll keep both of these alive, because there's also no Stalker. Usually when you see a non-Phoenix opening of the Stargate, you'll get the Oracle, and you'll get a Stalker, and then the Oracle can be used for high ground vision, allowing for the Stalker to then pick off the Overlord. As you do see the Oracles actually flying through, get 3 worker kills. Missed that just on the screen, but yeah, just a little bit more damage. I want to talk about what Zest's doing though. 4 extra gateways, charge very quickly of the Templar Archives. Now obviously we haven't seen anything other than double Stargate follow-ups from him, so he's decided now to change up his playstyle. But so is Rogue. Rogue has a very fast +1 missiles, a little bit of a later Rotron, probably because he knows there was 2 Oracles. So it's kind of smart. In the previous games, he knew there was like a Phoenix into Oracle, but this games he was like, okay, well there's double Oracle. Now if there's double Oracle, it takes up a bit more gas/time, and so I'm a little bit safer for follow-up for just a little while longer as well. So he's delayed the roaches slightly. He's got that +1 missiles instead of roaches earlier. And that's quite nice. We'll have an upgrade here very quickly as the Archon drop from Zest comes in. Now with 6 gates, this is a very aggressive Archon drop because you're looking to have the potential to warp in Zealots and really tank for these Archons and really, really deal some damage. But so far, no luck. It's actually just the Oracles that find another couple workers. Well, I guess, sorry. The Archons obviously picked up a couple workers. But the Oracles are maybe the biggest threat right now, as they're probably aim to jump into that main base and take down a few more drones. And that's just because the Queens have obviously pulled away to try and deal with that Prism. However, one of the Oracles going down. Good target fire from Grove there because it was initially hitting this Oracle and then he target fired it onto the lower health one, so you could guarantee that kill nice and quickly. And there is that Spire dropping down. Well, we talked about the potential for Mutalisks. When it's a proxy Stargate, that option always opens up a little bit here. And that's what we're seeing right now, that Spire starting. And again, I definitely would look to this and say, okay, we're probably looking towards Mutas right now as the tech choice from Rogue. And I like it. Present back in the main, gets a few drones here as he forces it away. He got that Zealot warp in too, so he can continue to deal damage. In fact, he gets a lot of these Queens. Zest is doing some real damage as these Roaches honestly in some trouble as well. Zest can warp in another 6 Zealots. This would be amazing, although I guess extra Roaches on the way out, so he might just deem it not worthwhile. That's a mistake though, loses the Archon. Well, Rogue needed something here because he was starting to take a lot of damage. Yes, it might not have been to drones, but that Queen count was dropping, and when you kill the Queens, it's really nice because all of a sudden there's nothing to really chase that Warp Prism away. So the Warp Prism can stick around so much more, and it usually is very safe to just, like right now he knew he could drop this Archon off because the Queens weren't going to show up and push that Prism away before he could lift it back up. So gets him an extra drone kill here and there. And the one Oracle that is still alive is back in to the main base, picks off another drone. Meanwhile, Roaches from Rogue coming across to the left-hand side. There isn't a lot here from Zest. There's a couple of High Temple obviously aren't an Archon yet. I have to use some Force Fields to buy a little bit of time for that Archon. The Warp Prism is coming back home with the Oracle, but the Oracle out of energy. And yeah, killing a few extra drones has been nice from Zest, but needs to make sure you can defend. But the Force Fields did a good job of buying time. And it looks like now he'll have enough. Oh, what are these Immortals doing? What on earth are these doing? Wait, why did he proxy a Robo? What the... Oh my god, sorry, I just completely missed the proxy Robo. Well, that's some bad casting by me. This is just not somewhere on the minimap I was looking at all, so I'm just going to apologize right now. The Robo was proxied in the top. I imagine to just hide the fact that this was like an Archon drop follow-up if it was scouted. Oh man, but then the Immortals were out of position, loses 2 of them, so that's obviously pretty bad. Well, he lost, he lost 2 of them. Man, what was that? Wow, apologies guys, you're probably looking there thinking like, what on earth is on the top of the map? It is the Robo. That's just completely passed me by. Well, my apologies as we see Zest going to come down to the bottom side. Now, these Zerglings from Rogue going to come back up into the center of the map. Zealots of Zest with the rest of the army back over the left. I mean, again, losing 2 Immortals takes away so much firepower from what would have been a big push. Now maybe he thinks about not going for it. Starts up Storm instead. I mean, Zest has no upgrades, no Forge, and that's an issue because it means that, well, A, he actually can't build cannons to help against the Mutas, but it also means that he was very committed to probably winning this game off of 60 workers, and he probably wasn't thinking too much about anything else. He just recently started these gases up, so again, was probably thinking, let's attack, but, well, losing 2 Immortals definitely made him change his mind. And that is so costly as we're going to be seeing those couple of Archons picked off as the Roaches and the Ravagers coming in through the main base and pushing that Warp Prism away. Again, these few units of Zest back up towards the natural expansion. We do see extra Warpins continuing to come through here. As we have got the Mutas on the map now, and they're going to head up to the top. Obviously, has found this Robo, so he's going to be able to unpower that and stop Immortal production. Does reveal the Mutas, so Stalkers can warp in against it, and we'll see what Zest does, because a lot of the time here, he might just decide to counterattack right away. It's only 7 to 8 Mutas from Rogue, though. 8, in fact. But he's already going into more Roaches and Ravagers to deal with a counterattack while also building up the Hydrogen to improve that army a little bit. Mutas fly right in, but the Stalkers kill 1 right away. Number 2 should go down pretty quick. Okay, the Stalkers can't stay in range. A lot of probes dropping because there's also Lings in the 3rd base. Stasis Ward held up a few of them, but it definitely didn't shut down all of this damage across the map. So much Roach Ravager, and Zest is in a lot of trouble as these Ravagers are going to be able to get through. Ooh, the Storms are good. The extra few Force Fields. I'm surprised we're not seeing Corrosive Files on the Force Fields to break those down. I think Rogue was just a bit preoccupied, probably controlling his Mutas. Happy that that fight was probably alright for him anyways. Zest is falling apart from that couple of Immortals being caught off guard. just because he was planning to go very aggressive, essentially all in on 3 bases, he was just way too far behind then. If the meter's showing up, it kind of forces his hand, and he can't just sit back and defend and try and get back there. And Rogue just had the perfect response, right? He only builds 8 meters, so he can build Roach Ravager against it. Very well played out of Rogue. I'm, again, just sorry that I missed that Robo Facility hidden to the top side. I mean, in the terms of the game, it obviously didn't have a lot of implications right away. It was, obviously, the Immortals getting caught was probably the biggest thing, and it was just the idea of trying to hide the information of there being a Robo up at all, so maybe he was trying to sell the idea of, like, it was an Adept attack instead. But then, I mean, the Temple Archives was in the main, so I don't really got anything for you, unless he really just wanted to, like, fast reinforce Immortals to a fight. Strange little decision. Anyways, guys, that's Rogue, who took down Zest 2-1 in the IEM Katowice qualifiers. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed the casting, hit us up with a like, a comment, maybe subscribe to the channel. If you've got any feedback or so, feel free to leave it in the comments. Obviously, if you're going to tell me I missed the Robo, I know. Any feedback, leave it in the comments, as long as it's not just like, I hate this cast. That's not feedback. That's just being a dick. So, thank you so much for tuning in. And, again, see you guys next time on the next YouTube exclusive on Saturday.